Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to our first Project Directors and Leadership Conference combined after our stint of virtual sessions and conferences for the past few years. The last time we were in person was in 2019. But today, and at this conference, we have almost 1,700 attendees. 1,700 attendees. How wonderful. We have representation from all across the nation, US territories and entities. We have so many folks who are able to attend in person and travel. We're across 4 hotels. So that means we filled up this one and we moved on to 3 others. That's amazing. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but we're all here and we work together. There are definitely lots of folks out here to assist. The app is available, but we won't just worry about our logistics at the moment. Now we are going to just right ahead jump into our opening remarks. And we have Glenna Gallo, who will be starting us off. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I have to start by just acknowledging that this is the first time in almost 2 decades of attending this conference that I'm attending it from this side, and it feels very weird. For those of you that I haven't met, Glenna Wright Gallo, or Glenna Gallo, Assistant Secretary of OSERS. I want to thank you very much for joining us today. Let me start by letting you know that it's important that we work together. It's going to be a partnership between you and us, as well as other people who aren't at this conference, and that will be integral to making sure that our students receive the education that they deserve and that they're entitled to. It's been about 2 months since I started this position, following a 1.5 years of waiting for the confirmation process to happen. And I've been busy over the last 2 months meeting with leaders from your professional organizations, leaders from labor organizations, other stakeholders, and families. We've started having the conversations that I know will help us reach success in the future. Before I go too much further, I want to recognize the tremendous amount of effort from OSEP staff and the committee, the Conference Planning Committee, in putting together this large-scale conference and really looking at the beginnings of integration of not only state education leaders, but also our project director leaders. And I want to encourage you to use this time to kind of explore outside of your comfort zone into new content areas and make new connections and bonds. Before I get into what our priorities are and some things I'd like you to think about as you go through the rest of the conference, I want to share a little bit of information about myself. I am a former special ed teacher. That's how I started my career. Thank you. Thank you. And I also worked at district administrative levels as well as state educational agencies in both Utah and Washington, culminating in State Director of Special Ed in Utah for 7 years and Assistant Superintendent of Special Education in Washington State for 5. Following that, then I had the tremendous opportunity to be unemployed for the first time in my professional life. And as I tried to figure out something to do because I was bored and just about everything was a conflict of interest with this position, I ended up taking on some unusual jobs. I drove Teslas underground in Vegas, not a conflict of interest. And I substituted in the very same school district that I went to school in as a child, and had an opportunity to substitute in some elementary special ed classrooms and elementary general ed classrooms, which was a great opportunity to kind of connect back to the practices that we talk about. Secretary Cardona is also an educator, and he has raised the bar for all of us. He talks about the need for us to achieve academic excellence, to boldly improve learning conditions, and to create pathways for global engagement. And I highlight this to you because we know that students with disabilities are general ed students first, and even more important than that, the expectations for all students are the expectations for children with disabilities. To do that, we need to raise the bar for academic excellence. We need to really focus on the instructional core. We need to look at how do we accelerate learning. We need to make more than 1 year's progress each year. And how do we deliver a comprehensive, rigorous education for every student? We need to use IEPs to provide those supports for students to make progress, rather than use IEPs to limit their ability to access that instruction. We also need to raise the bar for improving learning conditions, and that starts by targeting and addressing the critical shortage we have of educators and providers in every school. We have to make sure that we improve working conditions, that we provide competitive compensation, and that we have preparation programs that adequately prepare all educators, both general ed and special ed, to work together and to meet the needs of all students. And last but not least, we need to create pathways for global engagement. And what I think is key here is that we need to make sure that we have multiple pathways to career and college success, supported by long-term coordinated transition planning. Students with disabilities need more opportunities, not less. And that work positions us as a nation to lead the world. So let's just talk quickly about the mission of OSERS. And I want you to look at that bottom arrow. And there's a lot of words there. But I want you to pay attention to what it actually says, right? What it really says is we're going to improve outcomes and we're going to raise expectations. And I think that's easy to remember, right? 2 things. Improve outcomes, raise expectations. And far too often in the special education world, we get very fixated on IDEA and the promise and the requirements behind IDEA. And we need to remember that there's a whole host of laws and requirements and projects that support the learning of all children, including students with disabilities. We need to use those and leverage those to improve outcomes and raise expectations, whether it's the Every Student Succeeds Act in school improvement programs, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which requires 15% of VR funds to be spent on pre-employment transition services, Section 504 of the Rehab Act, and the ADA, which addresses discriminatory practices, which we see show up in accommodations needed by families to meaningfully participate, as well as accommodations and equitable policies that impact our students with disabilities. So with that, remember, improve outcomes, raise expectations. I'm going to ask you to think about 2 main areas to focus on. The first one is I'm going to ask you to demonstrate instructional leadership. We cannot afford to delegate instruction and evidence-based practices around instruction to anyone else for students with disabilities. This has to be a cohesive, coordinated effort in which we cross-train all of our educators around evidence-based instructional practices to deliver grade-level core instruction required by ESSA with supplemental evidence-based, research-based, specialized instruction. Thank you. That means that each of you, regardless of your level of comfort around instructional design and the research, needs to wade into this. You need to be actively part of it. And if it's not an area that you're familiar with, you need to coordinate with members of your team who are inside special education and outside. And if you're an educator prep program, I'm talking about general ed educator prep programs. We can't continue to prepare our personnel, our general ed personnel, with a limited amount of instruction around students with disabilities that focuses solely on the law. With that, along with instructional leadership, you need to look at how is it that you can make strategic investments to support learning and development. So how is it that we examine all of our policies, procedures, and practices, how we use our budget, the activities that we fund, and are we making data-informed decisions to stop doing things that have been shown to be ineffective and start doing things that are promising to be effective or that we have data showing the effectiveness. And as part of those two areas, instructional leadership and strategic investments, we at OSERS are prioritizing addressing the shortage, amplifying evidence-based instruction, intervention, and support, expanding the use of inclusive technology. And here, I want you to think about what we've learned during the pandemic, right? The lessons that come to my mind is that we can make rapid change when we're forced to. And students with disabilities can benefit from increased use to accessible technology and universally designed instruction. And so I'm going to ask you to look at how are you supporting your teams, your families, your educators around the effective use of instructional technology, assistive technology, and accessibility. And last but not least, let's actually invest in outcomes. I want you to think about the professional development opportunities that you provide. Are they geared towards improved outcomes? Or are they solely geared towards compliance with the law? And you're expecting them to then apply that or generalize that knowledge without any opportunities for that conversation. So with that, just a few things. We have made a tremendous amount of progress since 94-142 was implemented, right? At that time, students with disabilities were largely excluded from school. We only had 1 in 5 in school, and many states had laws that excluded certain students. Now, in 2020, we have over 7.5 million infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities served under the IDEA. We've seen increasing numbers that dipped slightly during the pandemic, but are starting to recover. And we're seeing a greater number of students who are also English learners and have disabilities. That tells us that we've made great progress in getting students enrolled and identified, although we still have gaps, particularly with Part C identification that we need to address. And now we need to look at what is our next step? How are we going to improve outcomes and raise expectations? Those of you that know me know that I'm pretty data-based, and so I don't have a ton of data in this presentation, which is personally a struggle for me as I navigate the new system of education and start trying to track those down. But despite that, in my conversations with you that I've held over many years, conversations with families, with policymakers, and with OSEP staff, these are clearly areas that persist that we need to address. Evaluation and eligibility, more restrictive placements for students with disabilities that are significant in both early intervention preschool as well as secondary settings. An increased use of restraint and seclusion for students with disabilities, despite the fact that there is no evidence of its effectiveness and plenty of evidence showing the harm. Increased rates of discipline, particularly for our students of color. And we do not have diverse personnel who represent our students or their communities. Lower expectations is pervasive. And I can pretty quickly identify it when I'm talking about improved outcomes and what will get us to improved outcomes, and someone starts their response with, but, right? Like that's the clear sign. We also see lower graduation rates, lower post-school outcomes, including decreasing trends of post-secondary education and competitive integrated employment, and a dearth of access to services, including mental health, which has really been highlighted during the pandemic. So I'm going to ask you, how do our, and by our I mean mine and yours, how do our current actions demonstrate our commitment and sense of urgency to improve outcomes and raise expectations? Think about what you're doing. Think about what you spend your daily activities on. Are those the things that are going to move us forward? Or are those the things that take up our time with very little results? I went into education to make a difference in the lives of children. I went into special education to make sure that students with disabilities had access to a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. And I went into leadership in education to remove barriers and support educators and leaders in providing high quality and effective instruction that leads to post-school outcomes, whatever that needs to be for each child based on their desires. Was the point of the law and regulations and compliance to be the entirety of our work? I don't believe it was. Are we, as leaders, seeking only as gatekeepers for the law? Or are we leveraging and building upon the laws to create a framework of supportive special ed and related services to make sure that every student receives an equitable and appropriate education? We raised the bar by moving beyond compliance and removing the barriers to equity. I'm not telling you that compliance doesn't matter. Let me be clear. We do need to comply, but that's not where it stops. We need critical thinking and proactive long-term problem solving, not reactive and after the fact or when we have time to get to it. And we must constantly re-examine our actions to ensure that we demonstrate commitment and a sense of urgency to improve outcomes and raise expectations. Thank you. So what is it going to take? First of all, we need to share our story. And our story needs to be about successes as well as barriers. We need to make sure that we show data that demonstrate the impact of the work that we're doing. We need high expectations that are reflected in our actions, both commitment and priority focused. And then again, I need you to work on instructional leadership. What is it that we're doing to really further the evidence-based instruction in those grade level core standards? We also need to look at the interconnecting supports. It's not us in isolation that will create this change. It's us working with others, right? And inviting them in and building their expertise around the needs of students with disabilities. We need to engage parents and other partners and expect them to contribute and provide the supports for them to contribute. And then last but not least, I'm going to ask you to shift from pursuing the urgency over importance. And there's a theory called the mere urgency effect. And the theory is that we spend the majority of our time on tasks that are time limited and important, right? So I need to finish this by tomorrow or this consequence will happen. Unfortunately, what we don't spend our time on are the things that are important and less urgent. And that's this mere urgency effect. So what are the long-term strategy and steps I need to be taking today and tomorrow to get us further? And that's where we need to shift our focus. Maya Angelou said it best, I think. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. We know better, and we can do better. I wanted to share this quote because it speaks to how I view our work at OSERS. No matter what, we're going to strive to do our best every single day. And when we find the moments and the places that can be better, we will do better, internally and with you. I promise that, because every single day is an eternity in the life of a child. Our work has long-term, lifelong impacts on the population that we serve. And I look forward to doing better alongside all of you. Thank you for having me here today and for doing the work that you do. I hope you enjoy this wonderful conference. You think about instructional leadership. You think about the mere urgency effect and how you're spending your time. I look forward to an improved future for children and youth with disabilities, their families, and communities as a result of the work that we are doing together. With that, I'd like to introduce Deputy Assistant Secretary Katie Neese. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone, and it's nice to be with you in the flesh. I was saying to someone, in my past life, I couldn't come to this conference because I was just an advocate, and it was fun to be here with you virtually the last 2 years, and even beyond more fun to be with you now. So I want to take just a look back of what we've done together for the last couple of years, because while we may have been in our spare bedroom, or I was in my spare bedroom without heels on, we've done a lot together, and I want us to sort of celebrate the things that we've done together. We started this journey with this administration listening to you, listening to other stakeholders about how do we navigate this world of COVID and what may ever be post-COVID together. And one of the first things that came out the door was guidance from the Department of Education jointly between OSERS and the Office for Civil Rights on the notion of students who have long COVID needing our attention. This administration's really been trying hard to be as vocal and inclusive of our community and our expertise as possible. When I first started, I had a number of other stakeholders come in and say, because of COVID, you're going to waive IDEA, right? And we said, no, no, we're not going to do that. But at the same time, recognizing that we were living with different circumstances, and that in our intention to affirm the promise of the law, we wanted to work with folks to make it real. To that, and as Glenna mentioned, OSEP staff authored a really amazing report on mental health and what we needed to do to help not only the mental health of our students and students across the board, but also the adults in the building. And that was done under OSEP leadership and really wanting to make the research available to people. It had 7 challenges and 7 recommendations that hold true today. We did a return to school roadmap that included a lot of really great resources, both for Part B and for Part C, And that was done in October of 2021, which seems like a very long time ago. But really trying to, again, pull together what does the law and regulation say for those that have been thrown into this new world order, and how that can be helpful in them meeting the obligations that they know they have. Last year was also busy. We released guidance on students who were placed by their parents in private schools. I don't know how many of you were around when this was done in the 97 amendments, but it was sausage making maybe at its best or worst, depending on your perspective. It's complicated, it's not clear, there's nothing linear about it. And so this guidance was a long time coming, and we hope can be helpful. In fact, we got a call from a governor a couple weeks ago whose state was exploring vouchers, and he wanted to know how these two pieces fit together. And he had highlighted and dog-eared that guidance. It was fascinating to see this happen. Our Secretary Cardona, has been working hand in hand with Secretary Becerra from the Department of Health and Human Services on how do we leverage the knowledge we have and research in healthcare and apply it to our schools, and to make sure that our kids in particular are safe. Secretary Cardona probably said a million times he wanted kids to be in person where they can be safe and learning, and it needed to be all of those things and not just one, and really leveraging the tools of the disability community to make things better for all kids. We did a great webinar with the Department of Labor on apprenticeships in the early education workforce, and I think you'll be hearing that term apprenticeships a lot as we go through this conference. Last year at this conference, we released our discipline guidance, and the folks at OSEP have been doing everything under the sun to get the word out, to socialize this, to have people understand what the law and regs require, but also how the research really does link to good instruction and good outcomes for kids, and that discipline can often be a sign of where those things are struggling. Interesting, we did a letter with Head Start because there were some communities in which staff, mostly related services personnel, who weren't vaccinated, and Head Start had a requirement that they be vaccinated, and we had to, this is a place where it's kind of theater is our job. We each have different roles to play, and we needed something, the Head Start folks and our folks needed something to remind state departments of education that FAPE is FAPE, and that if your staff can't meet the requirements of where you're going, then we need to figure this out together. And so that was another thing that we hope helps raise the bar. Two exciting centers that were launched last year, the Early Childhood Personnel Equity Center and the Rhonda Weiss Center for Accessible IDEA Data. We did guidance on highly mobile students. We use that guidance all the time. And our OSEP staff did some really terrific work on resources for states on how to improve child find, how to go find kids that maybe don't have, are not linked to a health system in any way. And so that's been tremendously beneficial to the field. So last year and this year, about a year ago, the president signed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which we lovingly refer to as BISCA. And within that law, the Department of Education was provided $1 billion for 2 mental health professionals grants, the School-Based Mental Health Services Program and the Mental Health Services Professional Demonstration Program, and also $1 billion for what we're calling the Stronger Connections Program to help schools. We have seen the shortage of mental health professionals in schools, and these, the 2 mental health professional development grants are designed to increase by 14,000 the numbers of folks who will be in schools working with kids and families and with educators. And the $1 billion under the Stronger Connections is money that goes to state departments of education who compete those for school districts. And school districts so far have been using these funds for a lot of professional development, a lot of hiring of more mental health professionals, and things to increase the physical security of schools. We've also invested significantly in Promise Neighborhoods and full-service community school programs, and as many of you know, it's one thing to collaborate and to say we want to collaborate and coordinate. It's another thing to actually have someone whose job that is to do it, right? We're all that, and so these two programs really create the infrastructure for those things to happen. So we're excited about that. Another thing we're excited about is in May, after about a year of working with our friends at the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, the Services in School-Based Settings, a comprehensive guide to Medicaid services and administrative claiming was released. And you think, why is she talking about a Medicaid claiming guide? This was something that the president tasked us to do to make it easier for Medicaid agencies and state departments of education to figure out ways for schools to navigate the Medicaid program consistent with IDEA and with Section 504. So this guide is out, and we are hoping that you will take a look at it as you go through your work. Also, to go with the guide is a new technical assistance center that was launched the end of June. And Richard Kimball from CMS is going to be here, and is going to be doing a session later today. So I encourage all of you to check that out. If you have questions about any of this, there is an email box that is taking information that will influence the work of the TA Center and the FAQs that will be developed, and that's school-based services at cms.hhs.gov. And then lastly, with the end of the public health emergency, the continuation of Medicaid coverage for kids ended the end of March. And states are now looking to re-enroll kids. And so we've got a lot of information on that. We know that about 55% of all students are enrolled in the Medicaid program. It's an essential place for them to get their health care. So more information about that is at insurekidsnow.gov. Lastly, I know that money doesn't solve all problems, but it does solve a lot. And when I was looking back at what we've been able to do since we've been in office, for Part B, since 2021, we've seen a $1.2 billion increase. Now, we know that we need it to get to full funding under Part B. We would need an extra $26 billion. That's a $26 billion. But the president's made a commitment to that, and we're doing what we can with the constraints we're under. We've seen a $22 million increase in 619, a $59 million increase in Part C, and a $33 million increase in Part D. And last year, we got $20 million extra dollars in Part D to do really important work, especially in personnel, and trying to help us increase the supply and increase the capacity of our adults working with our kids. So all of that's exciting, and all of that's exciting. So that's the end of me, and now I get to introduce Valerie Williams, our OSEP director, who will take you to the next section of the presentation. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Good morning. We're going to try it one more time. I saw you drinking coffee, chatting with each other. I know everyone's awake. Good morning. Good morning. So excited to have everyone here in person. This is tremendous. It's been a number of years since we've all seen each other. We used to have rotating schedules of having this event, and a lot of the feedback that we got was that it would be nice if we could all do this together. And so I am extremely grateful that the staff has been doing a hard job at trying to put this together. And I will recognize them in a second because they've done a lot of work. But I want to take a step back because I want to thank Assistant Secretary Glenna Gallo for being here and for her remarks and her thoughts and her priorities, because I'm excited it's going to further refine the work that we're doing. And I want to thank Deputy Assistant Secretary Katie Neese for all that she's done for OSEP in the last handful of years. We've come a long way, and a lot of work has been done, and we are very excited to continue that work. I am so excited. So can I just say that Zoom is great, and it's convenient, but it does not substitute for being in the same room with people and feeling their energy and looking them in the eye. This is fabulous. I want to recognize some of the OSEP staff, well, actually all of the OSEP staff because they're fabulous, but specifically in relation to this conference and all the work that it went into putting this together. I should advance the slides, huh? Rochelle Davis, can you please stand? Kristen Rose Mito Solomon, Diana Yu. You have no idea how much work it takes on to put on this event. Thank you so much. I want to thank all of the OSEP staff who will be presenting this week. I want to thank our colleagues at AIR for the tremendous amount of support that we have gotten from them. But before I go any further, will all of the OSEP staff please stand, wherever you are in the room? They make my work easy, or easier, and they're tremendous. If you're an OSEP intern right now, can you please stand? All of our interns. Thank you. So much has happened in our field since the last time we all met in person, and I would like to think that we have learned a lot. So the question is, how are we going to use it? It's become quite clear that there are a handful of things that we need to be mindful of as we move forward coming out of the last handful of years. One, to Glenna's point, we need to use data to drive our decisions. Use data. Are we spending money in the same places where we've always used it, or are we actually looking at our data? And when we look at our data, are we slicing and dicing that data? Because you can look at certain things, an example may be graduation rates, might be trending in the right direction. But if you slice and dice that by ethnicity category and disability category, are all of those students showing improvement? And for the students that aren't showing improvement, what can we do to make sure that they do? Because a rising tide lifts all boats. So we need to use data to drive our decisions. We need to go back to basics. I cannot tell you, we make assumptions that the people in this field know what needs to be done to help our students and that they've been here a long time. And at one point that might have been the case, but that is not the case anymore. So out of curiosity, if you've been in your job 5 years or less, raise your hand. If you've been in your job 10 years or more, raise your hand. 15, 20, 30, 35. Wow. Okay, thank you. But I can tell you as I travel across the country that the majority of the people that I speak with that I'm in front of have been in their job 5 years or less, and a lot of them 2 years or less. A lot of them. One of the exceptions might have been Montana. Shout out to Montana, wherever you are in the room, where I see some Montana folks. The majority of the people in their room have been in their jobs 10 to 15 years, and a lot of them it skewed 15 to 25, and that's extraordinary. But in many places, people haven't been in their jobs that long, so we can't assume that they know what to do. Something else we need to do, we need to raise our expectations. And Glenna mentioned this. We need to collectively raise our expectations for what we believe our students are capable of. There are no certain students that belong in certain buildings, certain programs, certain classrooms, should only be doing certain types of work during transition. That has to stop. Resist the urge to go on autopilot. Adults, by definition, like to be comfortable. That is who we are, and that's okay. But we're in this field because we care, and we want to make a difference, and we want to have great outcomes. So it's not about our comfort. We are here in service to our students. So be comfortable being mildly uncomfortable, because what we don't want to do is go back to 2019. Things were not working well for all of our students in 2019. So like Glenna mentioned, let's use all of the lessons that we have learned, the flexibility, the adaptability, the collaboration, everything that we have learned, and use that to propel ourselves somewhere even better than where we were before, because we can do that. If you don't remember anything I say in the next few minutes that I have in front of you, remember to be brave, to be bold, and to be urgent. The students, thank you. Be brave, be bold, and be urgent. There is no one coming in on a white horse to save us. Our jobs are hard, there is no doubt about it. But the people in this room can do it. We are enough. And as was mentioned earlier, a year is a lifetime for our students. And we know how to do this. So let's collaborate and partner and move forward, and let's get it done. So, where are we going? What's the path? So, people don't really talk about Andrew anymore, the Andrew F. decision in 2017. You do? Thank you for that. Thank you. I should have known you would be the one to still be talking about it, Diana. So, an IEP has to be reasonably calculated to ensure success, right? That's what's supposed to be happening. And we all agree that we want to see good outcomes. We want our students to leave us in a position to lead fulfilled, interdependent, because we all live interdependent lives, none of us is independent, successful lives. And how are we going to start? We need to begin with the end in mind, because our goal is not to get kids from elementary school to middle school or middle school to high school. Our goal is that when they leave us, they have a world of opportunity available for them. And that leads back to Glenna's question. How do our current actions demonstrate our commitment and our sense of urgency to improve outcomes and raise expectations? I think we can all agree that we are not likely to see improved outcomes if our expectations are low and we do not focus on instructional practices. It's just not likely to happen. And we're doing our students a disservice if we don't. So from a systemic perspective, one of the ways that we have good outcomes is to have good systems of compliance. So a couple people are clapping. I heard a couple chuckles, I heard a couple groans, I heard a variety of things. Now, just like Glenna, I want to be clear that compliance in and of itself is not the goal. Compliance is a tool to get to good outcomes. It's a tool. And I am relatively certain we can walk and chew gum at the same time, so we can do both, all right? So one of the ways that we achieve compliance is through a good system of general supervision, because everything is connected. So we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, general supervision and monitoring. Everyone's favorite topic. So everyone's clear, or should be clear, on why we monitor and why there is general supervision. And when that is in place, it is the systemic accountability that we need to ensure that our systems are working well in the best interests of our students. Because what literally keeps me up at night is that for some families, parents do not have the bandwidth for whatever reason, or don't have the resources to be engaged and involved. And is our system operating in the best interests of those students? That's what keeps me up at night. So how can we put together good systems that will operate in the best interest of our students, regardless of parent involvement? We want parent involvement, but we want our systems to operate and function as they should as well. And that's what keeps me up at night. And so I'm constantly figuring out how we can make that happen. And general supervision is not new. It's always been a part of IDA. So before I go any further, I also want to announce, in case you have not seen it, the general supervision guidance that we have been working on for quite some time was released this morning. this morning. It's okay, take a deep breath. It'll be fine. We'll help you, we will walk you through it. It'll be fine, okay? We haven't updated the guidance since 2009. It was time. It was past time. We have learned a lot, and we need to address a lot of the issues that were magnified and exacerbated by the pandemic. So if you look in your app, there are 2 sessions on general supervision this week. Make it a point to get to at least one of them. If for some reason you are not able to get there, it's okay. We have a short and long-term rollout and communications plan, and we will be talking to all of our stakeholders. We will be hosting multiple webinars. We will hit the road. We will have these discussions. We will answer your questions. We are here to support you, so it'll be okay. So take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. And here are the key updates. So OSEP has been made aware that not all states adequately address alleged noncompliance that is not identified during a formal monitoring visit, okay? And the first key update is that states are not going to be able to ignore that. Second is that it's important, we believe, to ensure that states are monitoring districts on a regular cycle. And we believe it is reasonable to require that each LEA or EIS program be formally monitored at least once during the statutory period of the state performance plan. Third thing, OSEP is concerned that states are not issuing monitoring letters and therefore notifications of noncompliance in a timely manner. So we believe it's important to establish a 3-month timeline, given that the monitoring letter is the official notice of noncompliance, and IDEA regulations provide that all noncompliance be corrected within 1 year of identification. And the last thing is a notable change from the current policy, which is that states, LEAs, EIS programs, or providers must correct each individual case of identified noncompliance. So we have a whole week to have a lot more discussion about this. I am sure you have questions. Write them down. We are here to help and support you this week. The OSEP staff that are here, I want you to engage with them. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later on, but I want you to engage with them. I want you to ask them questions. I want you to have conversations. There's a lot that needs to happen. And as was indicated before, this only works if we all work together. This cannot happen in a vacuum. So I'm going to move on because my time is short, and Shannon is going to pretend like she's on the Gong Show shortly and pull out her cane and pull me off the stage. And if you don't know what the Gong Show is, you should look it up. Highly entertaining. I might be showing my age, but that's okay. Some people are like, what? It's okay. DMS monitoring. So there are also a number of sessions on DMS. Some of the themes we've seen, how to leverage the process. We've talked to a number of states in the past that have been working on something. This is what I'm clear on. Let me put a pin in this. The people that are at the state and local levels for special education are typically not the final decision makers where our students are concerned. And there are a variety of reasons for that. But the people that know the best thing to do are not always able to implement that. So, if you know you're going to be monitored and there's something that you're working on, you have not been able to make headway, how can we as a department help you to do that? How can you leverage what we find to take it to the decision makers in your state and say, see, they said we really do have to do it? Because there are states that are using their monitoring findings in that manner, and it has been effective and it has been helpful. So, sessions on how to leverage the process. And the partnership that we develop as we're working with states truly is helpful, not just to the states, but also in the best interests of our students. Shout out to Texas. Where's Texas? Texas is kind of all over the room. They've taken significant steps to address their outstanding issues. And I thank them for their hard work, because it's been a long road, but we are absolutely moving forward. And in this recent iteration of DMS 2.0, we are actively working with states, with the parent centers, and yes, I know where they're sitting. and the Protection and Advocacy Centers. So we're working with all of them. Wow. All right. Where is Chris? See, Chris stood up. You always, no matter where you go, make it a point to get to know the people that handle the technology. Because when things go wrong, they can help straighten things out. And see, there we are. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you. So there'll be a number of sessions on DMS, themes that we've seen, how to leverage, and things of that nature. I want to make sure Chris is not trying to bring me something. You are. Chris is bringing me another clicker. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to run through these fairly quickly, but not too quickly. So we're talking about monitoring for compliance and for results, what that looks like in Part B and Part C. If you do not already have access to these slides, you will, so don't worry about taking a lot of notes and writing feverishly. We already mentioned about how compliance is a tool and how you can best go about doing this. Perfect. And we also have some examples on what compliance and results looks like when it is married together, so for your consumption. So I want to switch gears right now to move on to some other important topics. There are many, and my time is short. Personnel. Glenna mentioned that we're working at the department on all things related to personnel shortages. When we talk about personnel, I think about it in three buckets. One is the shortage of people that are literally in front of our students. The second is the pipeline, because there are personnel prep programs that are closing down because there are not enough people coming through them to replace the people that are missing in front of our kids. And we're talking about teachers, but also I should note there is also a shortage of some instructional support personnel in some disciplines. That's important too, because it takes a team. It is not just the person standing in front of the room at that moment in front of our students. The third bucket is that our profession is relatively homogeneous, and there is a lack of diversity, all right? And there is research that shows that when you are taught by someone that looks like you, it makes a difference. So once again, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and we're working on all three of those issues. And so one of the things that I came across is that North Carolina has a Pathways program that is doing some tremendous work. Shout out to North Carolina, where are you? Very creative, and they're doing some very intentional work, and that's what it's going to take. The work that we do needs to be intentional. You can't deal with 10 issues at one time. What are the top 1, 2, 3 things that you want to work on and make some serious headway on? Have some serious engagement with your stakeholders. Pick a few things and go deep. Don't try to go too broad. So in terms of the diversification, we're thinking very intentionally about our Part D discretionary grants and our dollars and what we can do. And so you see up here what we are doing to work on diversifying the profession, which we believe is important in the third of the 3 buckets that I mentioned earlier. And we've also had a supplemental request to support apprenticeships, and that's likely to have a positive outcome as well. So moving along quickly, shout out to anybody that works with, loves transition. This past spring, we with our partners in RSA launched Expect, I always just want to say 3E, Expect, Engage, Empower, Successful Transitions for All. We are determined to model and partner the relationships that we want to see in the States. We know that in order for transition to be successful, the VR and education systems need to work together. And it's not happening to the extent that it should. We've done a ton of listening sessions in the department. Katie did 1 million before I got there. I've probably done 1 million more. Glenna is going to add to it and do another 1 million or 2. And in listening sessions with parents and with principals in different meetings, one of the many questions I asked was, how's transition going? And they both said to me in separate meetings, what transition? That's a problem. We already talked about raising our expectations. Raising our expectations goes a long way in transition. And I'm going to tell you a quick story, really quick story. When I was growing up, and if you've heard this story before, indulge me for a second. When I was really, really, really little, my parents said to my sister and I, who is 3 years younger, you're either going to college or you're going to the military. You're going to college or you're going to the military all our lives. You're going to college or you're going to the military. You're going to college or you're going to... Right, so you have it already, and I just said it to you. Eventually, my mother dropped the military part, and she said, and you're going at least a 4-hour bus ride away, because that's what mothers do. You're going to grow up, you're going to get out, go do something, come back later. So my sister and I went to college because we decided this was a good plan and we could do this. Now, trust me, had we decided we wanted to be entrepreneurs, go into the military, take up a trade, do any other thing, my parents would have been perfectly fine and happy with that. But what they did was they developed a vision, my sister and I latched onto it, and we decided we could do that. Why don't we do the same thing for our families of young kids with disabilities? Are we including them in career fairs? Is anyone asking them what they want to do when they grow up? And by and large, we're not. And so by the time we pull out the checklist and start doing the formal paperwork for transition, it is too late, because those families have all those years to believe that their child is always going to be in their basement and there's nothing out there for them. And we can start talking about transition in broad strokes as soon as preschool and elementary school. So we're going to do better, and we're going to do it together. Connecticut has this beautiful pictorial of transition, what it looks like, all the different pieces that go into it. Sometimes a picture is worth a million words. Does this say next steps? Yes, yes, yes. Enjoy the conference. Enjoy the conference. Please enjoy the conference. It's been a while since we all gathered. Take time to build relationships, rekindle relationships, talk to people in other places that you would not ordinarily talk to, because this is going to require that we get out of our silos, that we build relationships, that we partner and work together. We are each other's people, all right? So meet somebody different, stay in touch. Review the general supervision guidance if you get a chance. If you don't worry about it. There will be plenty of opportunities to get your questions answered. The staff in the room from OSEP are here and will be here all week to engage you, to answer your questions. If you're looking lost, the odds are someone from OSEP is going to walk up to you and say, can we help you? What are you looking for? Because we're going to be hosts and hostesses all week. That's what we're doing. Be sure to engage with our TA centers. They are a wealth of information, and I am still astounded as I travel the country how many people don't know what our TA centers are and what they do. And I mean people that have been in the field 10 years, 15 years or more. And remember, be brave, be bold, and be urgent. Thank you.
I don't know, I'm fired. That's big news for a Monday morning. Thank you, Director Williams, and to our leadership team for your inspirational words. I now have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, Lola Dada Ali. And Lola is many things. You can read her bio in our app. But she has an amazing podcast, which she started a couple of years ago, sharing her story as an older sibling to an individual with autism and intellectual disabilities. She now is a proud mama of 2 children with autism. She lives just outside of Dallas, and she has her 2 children and a Portuguese water dog, which those of you that know me know I love dogs, so I just had to share that one bit of information about her. And we look forward to hearing Lola's speech coming up now. So please join me in welcoming Lola to the stage.